Solaire is one of the most recognizable helmets from the Dark Souls franchise, and is also overwhelmingly beloved by fans, to the point where new players, by the sheer popularity of the character, end up extremely hyped to meet him. He's said to be the nicest, hottest man in all of Lordran, and to proportion lots of jolly cooperation. But when all that actually happens, they're left kinda disappointed. Sure, he's friendly and all the memed lines are delivered with the charisma and gusto they expected, and he does help you in a couple of fights, but when it's all said and done, you're left with the feeling of, is that it? And seasoned Dark Souls players might be wanting to Wrath of the Gods me off a cliff, for even insinuating that Solaire's appearance is disappointing. And don't get me wrong, I love this naive son of a bitch too, but I've seen it happen firsthand. Twice, in fact. Both times it happened when I screamed at my friends to play Dark Souls and they begrudgingly accepted, thinking I'd stop annoying them with recommendations that sounded more like I was holding a gun to their head. Like I'd ever stop. And when they did get to Solaire, they both said something along the lines of, "Oh, it's that guy," and then moved on without a second thought, leaving me wondering, what the hell drew me and every other Souls fan to this sexy, sexy man in the first place? And that is what we're gonna find out right now. Jesus Christ, I'm bad at So, to actually understand why Solaire is so memorable in the first place, we have to go back. Back to before we even met the guy. We have to go back to the Undead Asylum. So, you just woke up in a wet jail cell infested with rats. The character you just got done lovingly sculpting the character creator looks like a California raisin, and an old lady just got done narrating the fact that you are an undead. And in this land,
the undead are corralled and led to the north, where they are locked away to await the end of the world.
And then she tells you about how
this is your fate.
So things are not looking very good, but thankfully a very handsome man comes to your rescue and... What the fuck? But it's not like getting rescued made things any better, especially after you realize that the only thing you have to defend yourself is the sword equivalent of wet cardboard. And depending on which class you picked, you can't even fucking roll correctly. But you keep going, and after dying to this big booty bitch and getting absolutely trolled by this little shit, you re-encounter the same handsome man that saved you from that jail cell beforehand. And he's been smashed through the floor by the same enemy that killed you moments before. His name is Oscar, the only friendly face you've encountered thus far, and in his dying breath, he tells you about his mission.
I wish to ask something of you. You and I, we're both undead. Hear me out, will you? Regrettably, I have failed in my mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family, "Thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know." Well, now you know, and I can die with hope in my heart.
Then he gives you a key, a Nestus flask, and tells you to go, for he would hate to harm
you after death. So go now, and thank you.
This opening is really good at establishing the uncaring nature of Dark Souls' universe, and it does so by repeatedly making the players see and feel how unforgiving life in Lordran truly is. You are not the main character of this story, and this world will not bend over backwards to accommodate your journey. And if you're going to accomplish anything of note, you will need to have the will to die over and over and over again, and to get back up each time it happens. Lordran is indifferent and cruel, but it's that same indifference that makes triumphing over its dangers that much more satisfying. So, after you beat the Asylum Demon, the same old lady from the intro that just told you your terrible fate is now telling you about the legend of the Chosen Undead, which states
that one day an undead shall be chosen to leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords, Lordran.
So you reach Firelink Shrine and you're feeling yourself. You just beat a big boss and you're the chosen undead of legends. You're feeling great. And then you see this guy. And you think, oh, the last guy I talked to was really nice. And in this strange and dangerous land, who wouldn't want to help their fellow humans? Let's have a nice chat with...
Ah, your face. You're practically hollow. But who knows? Going hollow could solve quite a bit.
Oh, he's an asshole. And not only that, but he also tells you that you're not the first to get here, and that there are actually two Bells of Awakening, completely destroying any chance of the legend being true, and you actually being the chosen undead, all the while making fun of you relentlessly for even thinking for a second that you were special in some kind of way. And the worst of it? You get the feeling he does that to everyone who passes through here. So you walk a little more and you find this guy. Hope he's nicer than the last.
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thoroland. Have you business with us? If not, I prefer to keep a distance, if possible.
What the fuck? Why is everyone a massive dick in this game? And that is when the player, ideally, realizes something. Maybe not consciously, but it's definitely in the back of his head. That this ruthless and uncaring world is what creates these jaded and cold people. And the more you play, the more that feeling grows, as you meet people that not only find meaning in tearing down the resolve of others, but also people who do that knowingly to achieve their goals, and to find their meaning. Something that becomes even more fucked up once you realize that meaning and resolve is what keeps people from going insane and hollowing, which is the process of losing oneself and becoming one of the countless undead you've been killing throughout the game. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's go back to our beautiful undead's journey, for the path he's about to take only reinforces what I just talked about. Or does it? So, after dying a few hundred times because of this dickhead's poorly explained directions, you find a path through the sewers. You kill a couple more undead, get caught in an ambush, and find this guy. And by this point, you at least have a feeling for the kind of person you will find in Lordran, which means this guy's either a cunt or dead, and he doesn't seem to be the latter, so get ready for some cryptic clowning followed by creepy laughter followed by extreme confusion. But then...
Oh, this one. Ain't she lovely? Her name is Yulia. She's plumb in love with me. You'd never leave my side now, would you, Yulia?
You discover he's just fucking insane. He has massive mood swings, going from giving you information and thanking you for purchasing something, to getting unreasonably mad and telling you to
go and fall off a cliff
for just not buying something from his incredibly overpriced shop. He's also so far gone, he treats the broken barrel beside him as his pet and calls it Yulia.
Oh, you can forget it. I'm all that she needs. Careful! She'll bite your little fingers off. Be kind, Yulia, be kind.
And after the player meets someone in such a deplorable state, they register, again, maybe not consciously, but definitely in the back of their head, that this is what someone who fell victim to the uncaring nature of Lordran and its people, lost all his resolve, and is on the brink of hollowing looks like, adding yet another preconception to the player's brain of the kind of person he's expected to meet in Lordran. But you keep going, you find a Black Knight that is way out of your league, climb up some stairs, and find him. Not only is he intimidating as fuck, he's also an unwavering brick wall for new players, and the first real boss of the game. And what a boss it is! If you don't know any of the tricks to this motherfucker, you will die a lot. And that serves, again, to show the ruthlessness of this world, but like, way more. Like, if you didn't get it before, you'll get it now. He'll literally beat you over the head with it. But, as I said before, it's that same sentiment that makes beating these bosses so damn satisfying. So after you beat that absolute ass clapper, you'll feel fucking elated, like you can take on the world. Or you just cheesed him. Either way, you're feeling fucking great, right? But you've already learned the lesson. Lordran is dangerous, and it can absolutely take those souls you just earned away from you in a second. But you proceed. It would be too much of a hassle to head back, and you just beat a boss. There should be a bonfire up ahead, right? Well, you go down a couple of stairs and... Anyway, so you head down the same stairs, but you go right this time. And there's a guy. And it is at this very moment, all those things the game set up about Lordran and its people are unconsciously going through your head. And because of that, you start to create a preconception of who this guy might be. Uncaring, insane, or just an absolute fucking dipshit. Who knows? But because of this world's nature, it's probable that it's one of those, right? So you talk to him and...
Ah, hello. You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time.
He's so friendly, so nice. He's the complete opposite of everyone else in the game you've met thus far. He breaks every preconception you had about the world, and God, he's so fucking hot! Anyways, when a player with no prior information about the game meets Solaire, they have no clue who this fucker is. And I know that sounds obvious, but with the absolute legend status he has achieved in the fandom, if you have the tiniest bit of info about Dark Souls, you are going to know about Solaire and the hype surrounding him. And that really fucks with the expectations the game expertly builds up. I mean, he has a fucking amiibo. Of course your expectations are gonna be warped. And that's really easy to forget, because when people first played this game all the way back in 2011 and created all the hype surrounding him in the first place, all they knew about Solaire was, well, nothing. A big part of his character, and why that interaction works and is so memorable in the first place, is that he shatters all the preconceptions the game built up about its people by just having him be so unapologetically nice, to the point where you get fucking whiplash just from the way everybody else has been treating you. And the best part of all of this is that he isn't just friendly, he is your friend. He's the only NPC that consistently helps you fight bosses throughout the whole game. Not every boss, mind you, but most of the hard ones. Every other NPC is either a one-off or just there to fulfill their own agendas. But not Solaire. He's always there only because he wants to help. What a fucking bro. And yeah, there are other friendly NPCs, and those are nice too, but none of them are this consistently helpful. For free. I mean, some of them you actively have to save for fuck all in return. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Onion Man. Anyways, there are still other encounters with Solaire that are just as fundamental to how memorable he is as his first one. And the next one I'm gonna talk about is arguably even more important to his memorability than the one we just talked about. And that encounter is... well, it's in the next area. Anor Londo is designed in such a way where navigating it feels as precarious and as wrong as possible. Like, this place was built for someone else, and you're just kind of passing by. Everything is just a bit too large, and the path you take through the level never feels 100% like it was meant to be navigated. It feels like you're a mouse skulking around a giant cathedral, and that sentiment is reflected in the lore as well. This is a city built for the gods, and seeing the contrast between how they live and how humans live does a great job making you feel even more out of place than before. It's the most breathtaking area in the entire game, and your hollow ass doesn't belong there. And that feeling is only enhanced by how difficult this area actually gets, especially after the infamous Anor Londo archers. And yeah, they're infamous for a reason. The passage is narrow, the enemies don't stagger, and there's a 99% chance you will fall to your death. And when that eventually does happen, the way back isn't exactly short either. Needless to say, that this shit fucks with you. And when you eventually get past this hellhole, your butt will be inevitably clenched, as you don't want to lose any of that progress. But you proceed, tiptoeing around the area, hoping to see the sweet, sweet glow of a bonfire, and that is when you see it. Oh my god! It's him again! He's so fucking... Anyways, this moment is important for two reasons. First, he's right next to a bonfire, something that any new player will feel absolute relief and comfort upon encountering. And that automatically reflects on Solaire, making this encounter feel way nicer than it would have otherwise. And second, he fucking flirts with you!
Oh, there you are. You've been quiet these days. Smooth summoning out there. Anytime you see my brilliantly shining signature, do not hesitate to call upon me. You've left me with quite an impression. I would relish a chance to assist you. You really are fond of chatting with me, aren't you? If I didn't know better, I'd think you had feelings for me. Oh no, dear me, pretend you didn't hear that.
He knows. And that's not all. Right after this, he helps you beat Ornstein and Smo, which are considered to be one of the hardest bosses in the entire franchise. It gets to the point where some people think you're meant to beat them with Solaire, because the boss is 2-on-1, which you aren't, by the way. Using help is completely optional. But it just goes to show how fucking essential he was to many people's playthroughs. If his previous appearances didn't make an impact on the player, using him as your crutch to beat one of the hardest and toughest bosses in the entire franchise sure will. But after light must come darkness. Remember Solaire's motivation, his whole reason for coming to Lordran in the first place?
Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son.
Well, as his journey leads him down to the darkest depths of Lordran, he starts to lose hope. And in this land, if you lose all hope, well, you know what happens. So when you find Solaire next, he says,
Why? Why? After all this searching, I still cannot find it.
His resolve is completely shattered. He says very little, but you can tell how desperate he is to fulfill his goal. And, well, what happens next is...
Finally, I have found it. I have. My very own son. I am the son. I've done it. I have. Yes, I did it. I did. Oh. 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 Oh, it's over. My son. It's setting. It's dark. So dark.
When his mental state was at its weakest, a luminous bug tricked him to thinking he found his own son. And that combined with his waning resolve caused him to go insane. And after you kill him, to go hollow. And what that means to the player is fucking bleak. He was the only person that offered to help, asking nothing in return. He was kind, foolish, and a true friend. And it's for those exact reasons, the reasons that made his friendship so valuable in the first place, that his life comes to an end. Or does it? So, if you do just a little more exploring, you can actually go to the other side of this wall and open it, save Solaire. For 30 fucking humanities! Aside from that being the only resource used to summon people or to get more Estus, it's also just one of the rarest items in the game. The easiest way of farming it being to kill rats for 3 hours or to invade other players. Shit, depending on how you played the game up until now, you might not even have any. And you need 30 of them. So, is it even worth it? In reality, no, not the slightest. The only other boss he helps you with is a massive pushover and a parry magnet. But you don't save Solaire because he's useful. By the time you can reasonably save Solaire without actively putting yourself in a disadvantage, you would already be in your second playthrough, and hopefully wouldn't need the help he offers, making it so that the only reason you'd ever want to save him is because you like him. You like him so much, in fact, you'd go through the trouble of actually helping him, and for nothing in return. You see what the game is doing here, right? It's forcing you to do the same thing Solaire did for you, helping a friend in need for nothing in return. Shit, I'd go as far as to say say this goes even deeper, that the game is making use of your in-game resources to put you in the same situation as all the people in Lordran. You either choose to be selfish and put yourself at an advantage, or choose to be kind and put yourself at a disadvantage. And you can see pretty obviously which one most of the NPCs of the game chose. Not Solaire though. He and arguably a few more chose to be kind, but since all of those people die before or after this point, Solaire remains as the only and most pure beacon of kindness in Lordran. So saving him doesn't just mean, yay, my friend is alive. It also means, symbolically at least, that kindness pays off, even in dark times. And it's really beautiful stuff, and another reason why he's so memorable. But my friends, here is where we reach the heart of the problem. Solaire's death, and the entirety of his character actually, relies pretty heavily on your previous investment on the character to work. If you don't care about Solaire, you don't care that he dies. And the main way the game makes you care about Solaire is by completely breaking your expectations of how people usually are in this world. The contrast of how brutal the world is and how nice Solaire is. You grow attached to him because there's no one else as helpful or as interesting or as intimate as Solaire. But all that rests on you not expecting him to act this way in the first place. Especially because, if you really analyze him, there's not much there to begin with. In fact, there couldn't have been much there to begin with because all of his appearances are so short. And now, unless your brain's a fucking chewing toy, you see the problem. That problem being, that's not what new players expect at all. With all the overhyping the player based on the marketing due to his character, a new player might end up getting his expectations way too high, completely destroying the investment they might have had otherwise in the character, since all their interactions will end with a subconscious, "Is that it?" Which is quite sad, since his character is so well realized. And yet it's because of the way he was realized, his character failed. Well, I say failed, but he's still well loved in the fandom, so shit, maybe I'm wrong. All I base this video on are two of my friends' playthroughs, which isn't a big sample size, is it? They might just be heartless bastards for all I know, and Solaire has some other engagement that I failed to see. But currently anyway, I see all of Solaire's engagements looping back to that initial moment the player meets him, where we experience kindness in a dying world. And God, if we don't need some of that right now.